Now, welcome to another Let's Talk Some Bad Batch, where this time it is the 9th episode of Season 3, also known as The Harbinger. And we will be discussing the episode by reading and responding to some of the comments left on my review over on the other channel. But before we can do any of that, we need your ever so brief review of this episode.
Well, I feel like I was duped a little bit. Like, I watched the episode like everyone else did, and I was like, yeah, I miss seeing Asajj. Oh, I love hearing her voice. I loved the action sequences with her. And then I got to the end, and I was like, wait, that was it?
That was it.
She just, like, cameoed, was like, let's do some generic force testy things, and I'm outie.
Well, did you expect her to join the team?
I feel like, why bother bringing her in at all when they underutilize her completely? Like, what was the point? There used to be machines that you could, like, stick your finger in. They'd give you a little brief poke and be like, M count equals here.
Well, yeah, but that was like a few years ago. They don't have those anymore.
But they did have those.
Yeah, because we see that in episode 1, and I'm assuming like the technology is still out there to do M tests, M count tests, whatever. I don't know. But yeah, let's right away go to the comments. How about that?
Sounds like a good idea. Top comment is from Joyusty. Somehow, Ventress returned.
Yes, she did.
I mean, they might as well have just said that, rather than, well, I have a couple lives left, or something like that. I was
a few
like,
lives left, yeah.
What is she, Catwoman? I was thinking of the Batman Returns with Michelle Pfeiffer.
Exactly what you're talking about, yeah.
I'll save a life for Christmas.
Well, that wasn't exactly what I thought you were talking about something else, but yeah, something along those lines.
Oh, no, remember she was counting down how many lives she had, and
yeah.
It was like, so Asajj Ventress is Catwoman. Confirmed. It's just so lame. Like, they made this big to-do about Ventress is going to be in the season, and it's not going to contradict the book. Don't worry about it. It's not going to... And then they were like, oh, we're not going to tell you how she's back.
Well, there is a tweet out there that says they are going to tell us how she's back. But here's the thing.
What, in another book?
Here's the thing, and this isn't to defend them, but I don't know that they made a big to-do about it. Yes, they put it in the trailer, which implies, like, get excited, right? Mm-hmm. And fans got excited. But I think it is more the fans that, like, built this up to be something big. And we don't know that it's done by any stretch of the imagination, but it's kind of like, she's back, and she's going to, as you pointed out, she's going to test, Omega.
Mm-hmm. Maybe she'll sacrifice one of her lives for Omega, too. Why not?
Why not? She's got
plenty,
left,
apparently.
Right?
She's
right.
Doctor Who.
Oh, boy.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking more Gandalf, because she's got, like, the white hair. She came back as Asajj the White.
Well, she had white hair before.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's more prominent now.
It just grew.
Well, I understand how hair works.
She's not Gandalf.
She's a little Gandalf to me, because she's nicer
Ahsoka
now.
and Asajj cannot both be Gandalf.
Yes, they can.
She's nicer because of Quinlan.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it does pick up after the book, in a manner of speaking. Other than her dying, this is definitely the Asajj Ventress that comes about because of that book and her experience with Quinlan and falling in love with him.
Yes, and ultimately dying for him, sort of.
Yeah, well, yeah, for time being. Anyway.
For now.
All right, let's move on.
Next comment from Hihu. I don't care about how Ventress was revived. It's the mere fact that she was brought back to life that renders her death and the conclusion of the book meaningless. Ventress made a noble decision and sacrificed herself, and she faced the ultimate consequences because she died. By bringing her back to life, those consequences are erased, making her sacrifice noble but shallow. Her sacrifice no longer matters. Personally, I see it as robbing a character from the best story. I just feel cheated that I was even emotionally affected by the events of Dark Disciple. Now the character is brought back to life. What's the point of experiencing the death of any character if they just get up without any consequences? Maybe then let Windu, Padme, and others get up too.
I agree with this, and I know I sound like a broken record, but as I always say, Star Wars is about choices, it is about consequences, it is about repercussions, and all of that good stuff.
I mean, but if she didn't know she was going to come back.
Well, that doesn't like...
She didn't know they'd bring her body back and apparently throw it in the Lazarus pit they had on Dathomir.
Well, I mean, that's not even what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about the writers of the show, or just Dave Filoni, who apparently it was his idea to bring her back. I mean, it's like you're undermining your own characters and your own story for the sake of what exactly?
I don't know. I mean, they're destroying emotional payoff.
Yeah, and I get it. Like, Filoni didn't write the book, so maybe, I mean, you've kind of said that before about Filoni. Like, if he doesn't write it,
he doesn't believe it happened.
Yeah, or he has this. we've heard that interview with Sam Witwer where he kind of brings up how Filoni is like, oh yeah, things can be different. That's actually a good thing. I don't know. It just feels like I read that book. It was a really good book.
I like the part of Lord of the Rings when Boromir comes back at the end.
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, it's not all that different from that. Mm-hmm. Boromir gave his life to save Merry and Pippin, and if later on it was like, nah, those arrows, they didn't actually hit in the organs. He's fine. He came back. It cheapens that death, right?
It does,
because he gave his life for those two. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of the same thing here. And I know there are people like, I didn't read the book, I don't care, which is fine. That can be your prerogative, but a lot of people did. And for them, it's like, well, that cheapens my experience reading that book now.
Right, because they tell you that all the canon is going to be important. And then they turn around and go, oh, by the way, these things that you thought were important, we didn't think they were important.
No, why did you read that? Ha, ha, ha.
Look at the Ahsoka novel by E.K. Johnson.
Yeah, that's...
What novel? Dave Filoni pretty much retconned every word in it.
Well, yeah. And, I mean, you also have the new Thrawn trilogies, like, where we kind of get to know Thrawn and his motivations, and then you see him in Ahsoka, and it's like, is this supposed to be the same character? Did you really kind of discard 2 trilogies worth of books in favor of this?
Filoni doesn't care.
It feels like he doesn't. It feels like he really
believes
believes
the whole... He wants to tell his story regardless of the story Disney's telling.
Yeah, which is kind of crappy.
Yes. It feels self-serving entirely.
It does, and I like Filoni. I like a lot of what he's done, but the more he does things like this, it's just kind of like, dude, like, let others play in the sandbox too.
Just like they had to even retcon Kanan Jarrus' backstory because he wanted to use them in one episode of The Bad Batch.
Yeah.
Nobody needed to see it. You could have done any Padawan and youngling duo.
You could have, yeah.
But no, they had to choose this one because remember that character? Remember Berries?
Remember? Yeah. Yeah. All right, let's move on.
Next comment is from Solo. One neat detail with Ventress is that when you zoom in on her face, in this episode you can see the scars left behind from Dooku's lightning. I also enjoyed her short but sweet little battle with the Batch. Definitely tired of so many characters somehow returning, but for now I'm willing to reserve some judgment until we have more concrete explanation. This episode just wasn't the time for that, since she has no reason to exposit her entire life story to the Batch. Absolutely. I didn't think she was going to show up and tell the entire... Here's my life story about how I started out and how I ended up like this.
Have you ever heard the tragedy of
Asajj Ventress?
Yeah. No, of course she wasn't going to tell the Bad Batch she died and all these things. There's no reason to. They don't need to know her life story. Even though it is interesting to point out, like, they could have looked her up, because they did kind of look her up, right? They looked her up with, like, text information. And it could have told them that she was dead, right?
Right.
The Jedi knew this and would have cataloged it, essentially.
But they don't have access to the Jedi information, only the Republic stuff, which maybe only showed, like, her last known thing was that she was a bounty hunter. You
don't think the Republic would have had knowledge of that?
Maybe, but it depends on how much knowledge and where Tech was able to glean it from.
Well, Tech's pretty savvy.
Tech is pretty savvy, though.
Yeah. I didn't notice the lightning on the face, though. I'll have to look again.
I know she had some markings on her face, but I couldn't tell if they were new markings or markings she always had.
Yeah, she's always kind of had some markings and stuff on her face.
Yeah, she always had the 2 on her, the corners of her mouth, and the 2... I thought she always had the 2 by the eyes.
I thought so, too.
Next comment is from Toby Waring. I was worried they would make Omega Force sensitive. They could still do it, but I really hope they don't. Just more interesting if she does it. Not everyone has to be able to use the Force.
Yeah, kind of like Sabine was more interesting without it.
Yeah, once she had it, I wasn't as interested.
But here's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
She might not be Force sensitive now, even though Asajj kind of leaves us on a cliffhanger like, I know something, whatever that might be. But her blood does take midichlorian blood.
Right, they said that it was, like, able to accept the the MCOUT transfer.
Yeah, so let's be real, it's all about, they're trying to make a clone body for Palpatine. They need that clone body to be able to take midichlorian, right? Blood, so they can give Palpatine his
right, because if
power,
they can't clone midichlorians, they need the clone to be able to accept midichlorians.
Exactly. So they need to be able to power up a clone. So in theory, the reason why they want Omega so badly is because she can take M count, and they need to figure out why, which means if you inject Omega with high M count blood, she ends up with a high M count.
Right. I do hope that the Batch, though I know they won't, heeds the warning when she told them they were not safe on Pabu, that she was able to track them down, so that means the Empire surely can.
Almost as if the name of the episode, The Harbinger, means something.
What?
Almost as if we've seen that in the trailer, that they will show up a Pabu.
What?
I know.
I don't
Crazy
believe Clone
stuff.
X will lead a bunch of clones to Pabu, just like the trailer showed us.
No, that was misdirection.
Misdirection.
Red herring
okay.
kind of stuff there. Yeah, it's not happening.
What if the show ends and Omega dies?
Wow.
Well, I'm
I
just
haven't
saying,
even
what
like
if they
considered that.
I know we never considered that, but what if they decide to go with it? And the clones, the few clones that are, the batch that's left, has to go on without her. Try to like help the universe for her legacy.
I mean, I love it because I'm crazy like that.
I know.
I mean, and in this weird sort of way, like if she is the key to Palpatine somehow returning, if they can, if she understands later on what midichlorians are, what they're being used for, or what she wants to be used, or what they want to use her for. I'm sorry. She may sacrifice herself for some reason to avoid that from happening. I mean, probably not. There's like a 1 in a million.
I know.
Shot
It's still a quote-unquote kids show. I mean, parents, the Bad Batch, it's coming out.
Yeah, your kids are going to learn how to sacrifice themselves for the greater good.
Ta-da.
Yeah, probably not going to go over well, huh?
No. Next comment is from Sean Sutton. Omega is getting the Sabine Wren treatment. When you least expect it, she will use the Force.
She's going to inject herself and use it. And just, like, know how to use it, right?
Well, the Force will guide her to how to use it.
I mean, I'm pretty sure Omega ends up Force sensitive by the end. I don't think she's going to do the theory I just had. I don't think there's any chance of that.
Omega becomes Broom Boy?
What if she's Broom Boy's mother? Yes, there we go. We got it.
Broom Boy needed a mom because everything's connected.
Everything is connected, yes.
He looks like a young clone.
But, I mean, I could certainly see Omega, again, coming to understand what this all means. She has access to Asajj's blood, somebody's blood. Mm-hmm. She dips into it.
They do the Kraven the Hunter treatment.
Yes, the whole Kraven the Hunter thing for those who have seen that trailer.
One bleeds and happens to bleed in an open wound.
Yes. We're gonna get something weird like that, and magically Omega will be Force sensitive and will save somebody with it. And if they do that, I'm sorry, because they shouldn't.
Because they shouldn't, no.
But
this has been a very good story.
It has been really good. I think that's
crazy.
That's why you get like frustrated when they do dumb stuff, because you're like, they're on the right track. They're doing so well. Yeah, you're doing so well. And then it's like you had too
many episodes to fill, so you're like, here's some dumb stuff.
Yeah, and it's like, don't. Just don't. You can stay on target. We can blow this Death Star up.
We'll be okay.
All right, let's move on.
Next comment is from Roger Palsgrove. It just felt like a setup for a future project.
Yeah,
because it is.
It is. It absolutely is,
I saw the
right?
tweet. I was going to talk about it today, but you brought it up, so.
Oh, sorry. I'm sure we'll talk about it more like tomorrow in a news from Naboo type video.
Probably.
But this, I agree 100%. This does feel like we are setting up something down the road. Mm-hmm. And it's going to feature Asajj and Omega.
Well, at least Asajj. She might get her own project.
Maybe. I mean, we already saw the little training montage here. I think eventually Asajj the White trains Omega the Clone.
She's not Asajj the White. Can't have Ahsoka and Asajj the White.
Well, then we can get rid of Ahsoka the White. No, keep Asajj.
She's Catwoman.
Yes, Catwoman will train Omega, the dog girl, and everything will be great.
Perfect. That's how I like it. Next comment from Ash. On a side note, I loved seeing how protective Crosshair is of Omega. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a bad sign for him, but yeah.
Though I don't like that I've already seen some corners of the internet shipping Asajj and Crosshair.
Why? Because he reached out a hand
to
her?
That's all it takes.
That's all it takes for the internet,
hey,
unfortunately.
People, Asajj has a boyfriend who's alive.
Yes, and who...
Quinlan Vos is alive. He signed the wall in Kenobi.
He did sign the wall, yeah.
So she has a boyfriend.
I'm not 100% against her. I don't think it's been debunked that she could still be with Quinlan right now, helping him with the path, or eventually. Because she did come like, oh, here's a Force sensitive, possibly. I'm going to come check it out.
Right.
I might have to take her away, she even talks about. So...
They very well could be working the path together.
Yes. Well, next animated program or show, The Path.
No, it's 2.5 Jedi, I told you.
I know it is. But yeah, I do like the Crosshair Omega thing, but I think it doesn't bode well for Crosshair in the end.
No.
He either I mean, I hate that we kind of just keep talking about these same like cliche ideas. I mean, I'm of the belief that he's not going to, because I think it is too cliche to sacrifice himself for Omega. But we'll have to see. They're not all making it out. That's all I know.
Last comment is from Trailblazer. I mean, in Legends, Ventress' original death wasn't even a death either. Dooku had a Magna Guard shoot her down when he and General Grievous were making an escape. She didn't die, but let herself go into a deep sleep and was boarded on a ship to get buried, but on her way, she told the crew to take her away from the war. This could be something like that.
I think the problem...
That's Night Sister magic. Who can say? They can do anything.
Well, I think the problem is she didn't actually die there, whereas here, I mean, she gets zapped by lightning, gets taken back to Coruscant in the Jedi Temple. They all see her, think she's dead. They take her to Dathomir, put her in the water. I mean, it feels like she would have woken up and been like, hey, no, not really
Not
dead at some
dead.
point. Or somebody would have been able to... I mean, you got Jedi, and they couldn't, like, sense her, living force was still within her. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I get what you're saying. It's happened before, but in this case, I
I'm more
feel like...
likely to believe crazy Night Sister magic, but...
I don't want crazy Night Sister magic to be able to bring people back from the
Marin
dead.
goes God mode, so I don't know why Ventress can't.
I guess Night Sisters are just going to be OP henceforth.
Henceforth,
All
Night
right.
Sisters can do everything.
All right, well, I think that's going to be all we got for you this time. Now it is your turn to take to the comments below and tell us what you thought of this episode of The Bad Batch. Did you love it? Did you hate it? What do you think of Ventress's return? Whatever the case may be, leave those comments below. Let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thanks for watching.